Welcome, chosen ones. If you found your way to this message, it wasn't by accident. You were drawn here because there is something in your soul, quiet, steady, and undeniable, that resonates with a higher calling. You're not just anyone scrolling through life. You are one of the few who has been set apart. And this video, this very moment, might be the reason. Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, we're going to unfold a truth that explains why your journey feels so different, so sacred, and why that difference is not a curse, but your greatest calling. Let's begin with a question that may echo something you felt your entire life. Have you ever walked a path so uniquely yours that no one else seemed to understand it? Have you watched the world of relationships, connections, and ordinary life unfold around you as if through a pane of glass, present, but somehow not participating? That strange distance, that lingering feeling is not loneliness. It is something far more profound. It is a spiritual rhythm, crafted not by the world, but by the hands of the divine. It is the sacred separation, the divine isolation of the chosen. You were not designed to blend in with the crowd, or to run after what others chase. Your soul was wired differently. Not to move with the traffic of the culture, but to wait for the signal of heaven. And perhaps you've asked yourself, why do I feel alone even in a crowded room? Why does intimacy feel distant and connection feel fleeting? If you've ever felt these things, you're not broken. You're not behind. You're being set apart for something the world cannot define. That, my friend, is where your real journey of faith and spiritual discovery begins. So stay with me through this entire message. We're not here to offer quick fixes or shallow advice. We're going to dive deep into why spiritual thinking demands solitude, into how faith is not about feeling, but about seeing beyond what is seen, and into why your difference is not your weakness, but your divine signal. This journey isn't for the masses. It's for those ready to go beyond surface-level answers. If you're watching and you've made it this far, I invite you to go further. Tap that like button to help spread this word to others walking this road in silence. If you're new here, subscribe and join a growing family of those who are awakening to their deeper purpose. And if something inside you is stirring right now, type 777 in the comments below. That's our sign. You are one of us. Let's begin your journey right here, right now, together. In today's world, relationships are no longer built on sacred ground. They've become fleeting exchanges, quick to start and quicker to fade. People connect through screens, swipe through strangers, and bond over surface-level commonalities, only to drift apart when challenges arise. Connection has become a commodity, not a covenant. In this digital age of instant gratification, love is often confused with convenience, and intimacy mistaken for accessibility. What was once meant to be holy has turned into a revolving door of temporary emotions and transactional involvement. We live in a time where presence is shallow, where promises dissolve under pressure, and where many choose the path of least resistance over the depth of true devotion. And yet, some of us feel strangely misaligned with all of it, not because we think we're better, not because we're incapable of love, but because we are designed for something else entirely. For those of us who have been chosen, there's an internal compass that refuses to follow the crowd. The rhythms of this world do not echo within us. We can't rush into what others race toward, because our souls were never wired for speed. They were crafted for purpose. There is a calling on our lives that demands a different kind of silence before any meaningful sound can emerge. We've been marked by heaven, and that mark doesn't play by Earth's rules. This contrast becomes especially clear in how we approach love. While many chase relationships to fill a void or satisfy an emotional craving, those who are set apart walk a narrower path. We don't seek romance as a fix. We're not looking for someone to complete us. We are being completed by the one who called us. Until that internal work is done, no external relationship will feel aligned. That's not isolation. That's spiritual design. There is a sacred architecture behind our solitude. It is not the absence of love, but the presence of preparation. There are no shortcuts here, no fast forwards, no bypass lanes. Every moment of solitude, every stretch of silence, is heaven's tool shaping us for something too holy to be rushed. I remember saying once, we don't question whether God will do what is best for us. We wonder how painful His best might be. The truth is, divine preparation rarely feels pleasant. It often strips away what we thought we wanted, in order to make space for what we truly need. That's the paradox of being chosen. We're being led to something more meaningful, but the path there requires letting go of what feels familiar. Nights alone are not empty. They are sanctuaries. They are the wombs of revelation, the temples where trust is born. While others dance in the light of casual affection, we sit in the shadows, learning to see clearly without being distracted by illusions. You see, faith isn't just about belief. It's about waiting. It's about discipline. It's about understanding that not every delay is denial, and not every silence means absence. Some of God's most powerful works are done behind closed doors, away from applause, in the quiet sanctuaries of a willing soul. Those who are chosen often wrestle with the timing of connection, wondering why love seems to pass them by. But the real question isn't, why am I still alone? The real question is, what is God still building in me? When the world celebrates speed, we are called to sacred stillness. When the culture rewards visibility, we are drawn into divine invisibility. And that invisibility is not rejection, it is refinement. What if your delay in romance isn't a punishment, but a shield? What if you are not being withheld from love, but being protected from misalignment? Every person is not meant to walk with you. Every relationship is not designed to remain. Some connections serve as preparation, others as confirmation, and a few, very few, are truly appointed. But in order to recognize what is divinely aligned, you must first be able to discern what is merely convenient. That discernment is born in the desert. That clarity comes from being alone with the one who knows your end from your beginning. To be chosen is to carry a weight that others don't see. It is to hold a frequency that doesn't harmonize with the world's noise. People might not understand your distance. They might label your patience as fear, your solitude as sadness, your intentionality as pride. But they don't know what you're carrying. They haven't seen what's being prepared in you. They don't hear the whisper of destiny behind your daily obedience, and that's okay. This isn't about their understanding. This is about your alignment. True spiritual thought begins when we stop reacting to the world and start responding to the voice within. And that voice will often call us away from what is common, into places of deep stillness where the soul can be recalibrated. In those places, we are taught that worth is not measured by romantic attention. We are reminded that purpose always precedes partnership. We learn that who we're becoming is more important than who's watching. And in that sacred awareness, we begin to see relationships not as escapes, but as assignments, not as identity, but as instruments. The difference between worldly attachment and divine alignment is subtle but powerful. One is driven by emotion, the other by mission. One seeks comfort, the other demands growth. And the person who is truly prepared for your spirit will not compete with your calling. They will complement it. But until that alignment is ready, you are not meant to settle for less. You were not created to compromise your assignment for companionship. You were not designed to dilute your essence to be accepted. The longer you walk with heaven's rhythm, the more you will recognize that every lonely step is actually a step away from distraction and a step closer to destiny. There's something else I must say. This world may not reward you for waiting. It may not celebrate your patience or understand your standards. But heaven sees you. Heaven marks you. Heaven honors the one who chooses preparation over performance. I know how hard it is to wait. I know what it feels like to watch others find what you desire while your path remains silent. But I also know what it means when God says, "Not yet." He doesn't say that to tease you. He says it to protect you, because what He's preparing you for is not common. It's holy. And so, if you find yourself wrestling with your aloneness, if you've questioned whether your standards are too high or your patience too long, hear this. You are not forgotten. You are not rejected. You are being refined. There is glory in your silence, wisdom in your waiting, and purpose in your pause. Every moment that feels empty is full of divine activity. Every ache is building endurance. Every sigh is a seed in the soil of your faith. This isn't about being without love. It's about becoming love, so that when love arrives, it finds a soul already full. That's why you're here. That's why your path looks different. Because you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to illuminate what others cannot yet see. And one day, when your preparation meets its divine counterpart, you will understand why every step alone was a step towards something far more sacred. If you've ever looked around and silently wondered why your heart doesn't beat to the rhythm of everyone else's, you're not broken. You're being positioned. There is a sacred reason your path diverges from the crowd. It's not that you're incapable of connection or uninterested in love, but that the love you were designed for is not rooted in this world's pattern. You were not created to chase emotional placeholders or seek validation through companionship. You were crafted with intention, marked with destiny, and love for you must be more than chemistry. It must be calling. It must not interrupt your purpose but support it, protect it, magnify it. The world may teach that relationships are about filling voids, meeting needs, or satisfying longings. But for those who are chosen, love cannot be an escape from solitude. It must be an extension of your spiritual alignment. You don't enter love to feel complete. You walk in fullness so that love, when it comes, reflects what has already been made whole in you. The difference is not in desire, but in design. You are not waiting for someone to rescue you. You are learning to discern who is appointed to walk with you through the weight of your assignment. This journey, then, becomes about clarity. It's about understanding that not every open door is meant to be walked through. Some relationships may seem right, feel timely, or even bring comfort. But if they pull you away from your mission rather than propel you toward it, they are misaligned. For the chosen, connection must carry direction. There is no room for detours when the road ahead has been crafted with such precision. You must be able to look at potential love, not through the lens of desire, but through the filter of destiny. Is this person part of the structure that sustains what God is building in you? Or are they a beautiful distraction, a soft detour from the mountain you were called to climb? I have found that every divinely appointed relationship begins with surrender. The kind that says, I trust the timing, I trust the silence, and I trust that what is mine will not miss me. You are not overlooked. You are not being denied. You are being preserved for a union that will not simply hold your hand, but honor your purpose. And that kind of love cannot be manufactured, forced, or fabricated. It must be revealed in the right season, when the soul has been refined enough to recognize it. If anything in you feels out of place in the world's version of love, it's because you were never meant to fit into it. You were meant to rise above it. This is your invitation, not to withdraw, but to wait, not to chase, but to choose with clarity, not to fill a gap, but to walk in fullness, so that when love comes, it meets you already whole, already aligned, already ready. Not every light is welcome. Some shine to comfort, others to confront. And when the light within you begins to pierce beyond surface layers, when it exposes what others would rather leave hidden, it no longer becomes a passive glow. It becomes a force. That is the paradox of the chosen. You don't just carry illumination, you become it. You walk into rooms and conversations shift, not because of anything you said, but because of what you carry. The truth in you disturbs what is false around you. The clarity you walk in makes compromise nervous, and people feel that before they understand it. There is a reason some are drawn to you with wonder, while others retreat without explanation. It's not about your personality or presence, it's about your spiritual resonance. Your life is tuned to a different frequency, one that exposes shadows, not by accusation, but by contrast. You don't try to make people uncomfortable, but your authenticity confronts their masks. You don't demand vulnerability, but your presence reveals where it's missing. That is not arrogance. That is alignment. When you carry truth, you don't have to speak it for it to be felt. Your very being becomes a mirror, and not everyone is ready to look into it. I've often found that light does two things at once. It reveals and it repels. Some see it and find comfort. They've been looking for a way out of the dark. Others see it and panic. It threatens the security they've built in their shadows. This is why being chosen comes with both impact and isolation. You are called to bring clarity, but clarity can feel invasive to those who have learned to survive in confusion. You shine not just for yourself, but for others. And yet, that very light can make you misunderstood. You were never asked to dim, but you were warned. Not everyone can stand in what you carry. This is not rejection, it's recognition. When people walk away, it's often because something in them has been stirred, not because something in you is wrong. Your light calls for honesty, and honesty demands change. But change is uncomfortable, and not everyone is ready for it. You're not here to convince people to accept you. You're here to be what you were created to be. And sometimes, being that fully will cost you temporary comfort for the sake of eternal purpose. You were not given your light to entertain. You were given it to awaken. And awakening is messy. It disrupts routines, dismantles illusions, and breaks the silence people have grown used to. There will be moments when you wonder why others pull away. Just when you start to feel close, you'll question your place in rooms that go quiet when you speak. But don't shrink. Don't apologize for being spiritually visible in a world that trains people to hide. Your light wasn't meant to blend in. It was meant to reveal what needs to be brought out. Some of the deepest loneliness you'll feel will not be because no one is around, but because very few can stand beside someone who refuses to wear a mask. You won't always be understood. That's the cost of carrying something real in a world saturated with performance. But the weight of this calling is also its reward. Those who remain close despite the discomfort, those who choose growth over comfort, are the ones who have been drawn by divine intention, not casual familiarity. These are your people, your fellow travelers, your purpose-aligned companions. I've said before, I believe in faith the way I believe the sun has risen. Not only because I see it, but because by it, I see everything else. The same is true of the light in you. It doesn't just help you see more clearly, it helps others see themselves for the first time. But not everyone welcomes that clarity. Many have built their lives avoiding it. That's why your journey will never look crowded. Your calling will not attract a crowd. It will attract alignment. When the world teaches you to adjust your brightness for the comfort of others, remember that the goal was never to fit in. It was to stand out with purpose. Your presence will disturb people's complacency, not by force, but by contrast. You're not the enemy of their comfort. You're the evidence of another way. And deep down, many will thank you for that, even if they don't know how to do it in the moment. Don't be surprised when the ones who cheer you on from afar are silent up close. Don't be disheartened when vulnerability causes discomfort. It's part of the process. Light attracts truth seekers and repels pretenders. It comforts the honest and convicts the deceived. And your assignment is not to decide who stays or leaves, but to remain lit regardless. You weren't anointed for applause. You were set apart to illuminate paths, even if you must walk some of them alone. This paradox is where strength is formed. You learn to love without needing approval. You learn to stand without needing company. You discover that divine light is not for decoration. It's for direction. You become less concerned with who understands you and more focused on who sent you. Your aim is not validation. It's obedience. And as you continue walking in this light, you'll begin to notice something powerful. The few who remain because they've seen the real you and still draw near. They don't need perfection. They need a presence. They've encountered your essence, not your image. And they're not afraid of the weight you carry, because they're carrying their own. So embrace this tension. Walk boldly in the light, even when it isolates you. Speak truth gently, even when it costs you connection. Stay grounded in your faith, even when others choose comfort over conviction. The paradox of the chosen is not meant to break you, it's meant to refine you. You were not born to cast shadows, or you were born to push them back. And every step you take in that light is a declaration that you are not here to be accepted. You are here to reveal what others forgot could be seen. There is a kind of energy that cannot be imitated. It doesn't demand attention, yet it shifts the room. It doesn't speak loudly, but it unsettles the atmosphere. This is the energy carried by those who have been chosen, those who have been through the fires of refinement and now walk in a quiet, unwavering authenticity. That presence alone becomes a filter. Not everyone can sit in it comfortably. Not everyone is willing to meet its gaze. Because when your spirit has been purified, when your motives are clear, when your soul no longer tolerates pretense, you carry an invisible authority that confronts the false without saying a word. In a world addicted to performance, the real is disruptive. When someone has built their life on carefully crafted personas, they will feel exposed in the presence of someone who simply refuses to wear one. And that exposure creates discomfort. It's not about judgment. It's about spiritual contrast. People don't retreat from you because you've done something wrong. They retreat because your integrity calls theirs into question. You stand as a quiet reminder that truth still exists, and that can feel like a threat to those invested in illusion. This is why the chosen are often misunderstood. It's not because they're difficult. It's because they don't engage in emotional theater. They don't mirror what's fake just to make others feel at ease. Their energy does not bend for convenience. It demands honesty, and honesty is costly. You may find people admiring you from a distance, but keeping you at arm's length up close. You may feel the sting of being excluded, questioned, or misread, but that's not rejection. It's resistance. Resistance to the inner work your presence unconsciously stirs in others. I've seen this again and again. When your life aligns with divine truth, your existence becomes a living confrontation to everything that pretends. And it's not because you're trying to expose others. It's simply that the light in you reveals what darkness hides. That kind of spiritual sharpness cannot be softened. It was never meant to be. You are not here to fit in with comfort zones. You are here to call out authenticity by being it, not with force, not with pride, but with unwavering clarity. Truth is magnetic to the ready and repellent to the reluctant. Some will gravitate toward your transparency because they're starving for something real. Others will recoil because they're still hiding. Your presence becomes the dividing line, not by design, but by default. And this is part of the calling, to live in such a way that you cannot fake connection, cannot pretend interest, cannot endure shallow interactions without feeling the tension of compromise. You were created to be honest, to be whole, and to hold space for others who want the same, even if it means walking alone until they arrive. So don't shrink your spirit to keep people comfortable. Don't silence your truth to protect someone's mask. The world may not always appreciate the power of your clarity, but heaven does. And when the time comes, your presence will no longer be a disruption. It will be the anchor someone else has been praying to find. Solitude is often misunderstood. To the untrained eye, it looks like a void, something to be filled, a weakness to be fixed, a sign that something is missing. But to those who have been chosen, solitude is sacred. It is not emptiness, it is divine design. What feels like isolation is actually a spiritual safeguard. It is a holy filter God uses to keep what is misaligned from attaching to what is being refined. When your calling is specific, your company must be selective. And the only way to separate the real from the counterfeit is through seasons where the noise fades and the masks fall away. There's a reason God doesn't allow everyone access to you when you carry a divine assignment. Casual connections can be costly. Not everyone is meant to walk beside someone being shaped by fire. Solitude becomes the test that reveals intention. People who are drawn to your light must be willing to live in the truth it exposes. Those who are only comfortable in their illusions will eventually pull away. And when they do, that's not abandonment, it's clarity. You weren't rejected, you were redirected. You were protected by a filter heaven placed over your life. This is why loneliness is not always what it seems. It is not punishment, and it is certainly not failure. It is pruning. It is a spiritual separation where divine hands remove anything that might slow your progress, distract your mind, or dilute your purpose. It is in this space of stillness that false friendships fade and shallow relationships cannot survive. Solitude has a way of forcing truth to the surface. You start to see people, situations, even your own heart, with sharper vision. And the more you align with God's voice, the more dissonant every lesser sound becomes. I once said that to love at all is to be vulnerable, and it's still true. But before we can offer that vulnerability to another person, we must first survive the vulnerability of silence. When you walk alone, you learn who you are without applause, without attachment, without distraction. That clarity is what prepares you for true connection later, but it doesn't come easy. People will misunderstand your silence. They'll mislabel your distance. They'll assume you're closed off when you're actually being carved open in the most sacred way. Even Jesus experienced this paradox. His presence stirred reactions wherever he went. Some fell to their knees in awe. Others picked up stones in anger. The power of purity is that it provokes, it pushes against comfort zones and awakens what many would rather keep dormant. If you carry any measure of that same essence, expect similar responses. Some will draw near because your presence frees them. Others will step back because it threatens their survival in the shadows. And that tension, that's the evidence that your life is functioning as a divine filter. This is the purpose of your season. Not to prove your worth through companionship, but to refine your discernment through solitude. Every silence is doing something. It's filtering, it's protecting, it's preparing. When someone walks away, don't grieve the absence. Honor the alignment. That's God making room for what's right. Your solitude is not a deficit. It's a gate. It's the place where your soul learns the difference between being wanted and being worthy, between being popular and being purposeful. And when the time comes, the right people will find you, not because you chased them, but because they recognize the light you never dimmed. They'll meet you in the place God hid you, not to stay hidden forever, but to be revealed in the right moment. Until then, walk your season with reverence. This solitude is not your end. It is your sanctuary. You are not here to blend in. You were never sent to match the tone of the world or echo its rhythm. Your presence carries a deeper weight because your identity begins in a place others often forget: the soul. I once said you don't have a soul. You are a soul. You have a body, and that changes everything. When you see yourself through that lens, you no longer measure your worth by surface-level comparisons or fleeting emotions. You begin to understand that your life unfolds from the inside out, not the outside in. And that awareness demands separation, not as punishment, but as preparation. Those who are chosen are not exempt from loneliness. In fact, they are often required to walk through it with intention. But that solitude is never without purpose. It is a training ground, a sacred corridor where noise is stripped away and clarity is born. When God sets someone apart, it's not to isolate them indefinitely. It's to refine them intimately. Just as metal must be placed in fire before it shines, your soul must be separated before it can lead. This process doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the wilderness. It happens when no one is watching and no one is clapping. Even Jesus didn't step into his public mission without first walking through private separation. He withdrew for 40 days, not for relief, but for refinement. In that desert, he wasn't weakened. He was strengthened. He didn't lose himself. He found focus. And if he, being the Son of God, needed that sacred space of stillness before stepping into purpose, how much more must we? The pattern is consistent. The greater the assignment, the deeper the preparation, the longer the silence, the more precise the shaping. You're not being delayed. You're being developed. This is why the world's pace will never match yours. Culture teaches us to hurry, to produce, to be visible at all costs. But heaven teaches us to become before we appear. You're not behind. You're in process. Every moment you feel tucked away, hidden from view, is a moment God is crafting something eternal in you. And when that work is finished, no man-made stage will be able to contain the fullness of your calling. You won't have to announce your arrival. Your presence will speak for itself because it will carry the weight of authenticity. You may feel the ache of delay, the stretch of waiting, and the silence of unanswered questions. But that tension is evidence of transition. Something is growing within you that can't be rushed, and though it feels like stillness, it is actually a sacred motion, a holy unfolding. You are being positioned for something greater than recognition. You are being prepared to carry revelation. That kind of responsibility cannot be entrusted to someone who has not first been set apart. Separation is not the absence of purpose. It is the proof of it. So, if you find yourself alone more often than not, misunderstood by those closest to you, or weighed down by a sense of holy discontent, know this: you're not being overlooked. You're being handcrafted. You are not invisible. You're being preserved. God never separates without a reason. He removes distractions so your foundation can be strong. He subtracts noise so his voice can be clear. He narrows your circle so your convictions can grow deep roots. And when the time comes, all of it will make sense. There is something sacred about a life that has been hidden with God. The kind of life that doesn't need constant affirmation because it's already anchored. The kind of soul that has endured fire and come out refined instead of ruined. These are the lives that shift atmospheres. These are the people who carry presence, not performance. They don't need attention to feel alive. They need purpose. And they find it not in the crowd, but in the quiet. Not in applause, but in alignment. Your journey may look strange to others. It may feel strange to you at times. But divine preparation rarely fits into familiar timelines. It unfolds in layers, not by demand, but by surrender. You are not waiting for something to happen to you. You are becoming someone who can steward what's already written for you. Every trial, every silence, every unanswered prayer has a role in your shaping. None of it is wasted. None of it is accidental. This is your consecration season. A time when you are being pulled away from what is common so you can carry what is holy. A time when you are being emptied of what's unnecessary so you can be filled with what is eternal. And though it feels heavy, it is a sacred weight. A purposeful pressure. It is not meant to break you, but to build in you the kind of strength that can carry divine responsibility. When that season ends, you won't return the same. You'll step forward with clarity, with conviction, and with a quiet authority that only the wilderness can produce. You won't have to search for your place. Purpose will meet you at the door, and the people who couldn't see you before will recognize the light they once overlooked. Because you were never just another voice. You were a soul being sharpened in silence to speak with truth, to live with weight, and to walk with heaven's breath in every step. This is what it means to be set apart, not for glory, but for purpose, not for applause, but for impact, not to feel different, but to make a difference. So keep walking, keep waiting, keep becoming. Your moment is not coming. It's being built. Right now, in the stillness beneath the surface, within the silence. This is sacred ground, and your soul knows it. Love is not a safe endeavor. It never has been. It opens you, softens you, and in the same breath, exposes you. I've said it before. If you're going to love, you must be prepared to be broken, because love, real love, doesn't shield you from pain. It invites it, not through cruelty, but through the risk it requires. To love at all is to place your heart in someone else's hands and believe they won't crush it, but the chosen ones, those marked by heaven for something greater, carry a unique tension. Their hearts are not ordinary, and their wounds run deeper not because they are fragile, but because they are finely tuned to truth. When you've been set apart, your emotions can't be compartmentalized the way the world encourages. You can't casually attach and easily detach. Your soul won't allow it. You feel the weight of every connection, every intention, every silence. That's why love for someone like you isn't just an experience. It's a spiritual encounter. It carries consequences, direction, and spiritual implications. And if misaligned, it has the power to steer you off course, not just emotionally, but divinely. This is why the heart of the chosen must be guarded, not walled off, but watched over with discernment in the stillness of solitude. This discernment is sharpened. The world calls these moments empty, but they are anything but that. Every so-called void is filled with something sacred. Every silent night is a conversation with eternity. You are not being deprived. You are being developed. What feels like a lack of connection is actually a deep, invisible alignment. God is teaching you the difference between affection and assignment, between emotional pull and spiritual purpose. And that clarity doesn't come from being surrounded by voices. It comes from being alone with the only voice that matters. In that quiet, you learn what your heart was made for. not for shallow flirtations or fleeting intimacy, but for covenant, for connection that reflects the kingdom, not the culture. The fragility of your heart isn't a flaw. It's the signature of something holy. You were designed to feel deeply so you could love deeply. But that gift must be directed by wisdom. Love outside of calling is not only a distraction, it becomes a detour. And detours for the chosen are dangerous because they don't just cost time, they can delay destiny. The process of refinement is not comfortable. It breaks the illusion that love will fix your life or save you from yourself. It reveals that no human relationship can take the place of spiritual grounding. And once you've encountered divine presence in your solitude, you no longer settle for companionship that simply fills space. You crave connection that speaks to your soul, that knows how to carry weight without cracking under it. You start asking different questions. Not, does this person want me? But can they walk with me through purpose without pulling me from it? That shift marks a turning point in the life of the chosen. No longer driven by the need to be understood, they begin to seek to understand what they truly need. They begin to see that love must be more than chemistry. It must be alignment. It must support, not distract. It must strengthen, not split focus. Because once you've experienced what it means to be spiritually full, you can never again survive on emotional scraps. And you shouldn't have to. There is holiness in the ache of waiting. There is sacredness in the seasons when your heart feels exposed, but unseen. That discomfort is not punishment, it is precision. It is heaven narrowing the field so that when love does arrive, it finds a heart that is whole, not desperate, a heart that has already been filled, not by human hands, but by the presence of God. That kind of heart is not easy to break because it has already been broken and rebuilt by the only one who knows how. When you walk through this process, you come to understand that your heart is not too much. It's just too sacred for anything less than purpose. That is the difference. And that difference may cost you moments of pain, but it will protect you from a lifetime of compromise. Your tenderness is not weakness. It is revelation. It is proof that you are built to carry love that reflects heaven, not just romance that mimics trends. This kind of journey doesn't get celebrated in the world. It won't go viral. It won't be packaged neatly in social media highlight reels. But in the quiet, it is known. And heaven sees every silent surrender, every unseen tear, every prayer whispered when you thought no one was listening. All of it counts. All of it matters, because all of it is part of the becoming. So, if your heart feels heavy, it's not because you are losing. It's because you are being prepared. You are being equipped not only to give love, but to carry it with intention. You're being taught to recognize the difference between distraction and destiny. And when the time is right, love will meet you in a place your solitude helped you build. A place not of emptiness, but of fullness. A place not of longing, but of readiness. This is the cost of the Sacred Heart. It cannot be rushed, faked, or substituted. But when it finds its match, its divine counterpart, it will know, not because the emotions explode, but because the spirit aligns. And in that moment, you'll realize every delay, every silence, every tear was heaven's way of writing a story that no hand but God's could author. True preparation doesn't always come in the form we expect. There are no desks, no blackboards, no formal lectures or loud applause. Instead, there is silence. There is the subtle stirring of the soul, the quiet shaping of the inner world. The classroom of the spirit is invisible to the human eye, yet unmistakable to the one who has been called into it. It's where real transformation begins, not with external validation, but with internal surrender. And while the world rushes to measure success by visibility, those who are chosen are led into a space where they are taught to listen long before they speak. The unseen classroom is where God begins to whisper the blueprints of your assignment. He doesn't shout over the noise. He waits for the noise to die down. And when it does, you begin to notice things you had never seen before. Not out there, but within. Suddenly, clarity doesn't come from a crowd, but from conviction. You realize that movement in the kingdom is not always measured by steps you take on the outside, but by shifts that happen on the inside. And that shift is often slow, steady, and sacred. In this hidden space, you are not just waiting, you are being worked on. Preparation is not passive. It is a deep, spiritual movement. You're not standing still. You're being shaped. You're not wasting time. You're learning how to carry time differently. Every moment you feel forgotten is actually a moment where your foundation is being reinforced. And every delay is a lesson in trust, not a denial of your purpose. This kind of training does not operate on the timelines of culture. It obeys a rhythm that flows from eternity. And only those who can remain still long enough will hear it. The lessons taught here are not written in ink. They are carved into character. You learn how to see beyond what's visible, how to wait without anxiety, how to hold promises without rushing their fulfillment. God teaches you not just what to carry, but how to carry it, with integrity, with discernment, with grace. This is not spiritual entertainment. It is formation, and the longer you stay, the more aware you become of how unready you were before He began the work. This hidden space is where your heart is measured, not your performance. It is where motives are purified and attachments are tested. And while it may feel like nothing is happening, heaven sees the transformation. God doesn't need a platform to prepare you. He only needs your attention. He only needs your availability. And when you offer that, He begins to build something no human hand could ever design. A vessel that can carry glory, not just gifts. A life that can withstand pressure without losing purity. I've walked this path, and I know what it's like to be unseen by the world, but exposed before God. There is no hiding here, no pretending. You come face to face with who you are and who you are not. And in that confrontation, something beautiful happens. You begin to realize that the process itself is the preparation. You're not just being made ready for a calling. You are becoming the kind of person who won't misuse it when it arrives. This is why the spiritual classroom is necessary. Without it, we build too fast. We rise too early. We speak without authority and move without alignment. But with it, everything changes. The weight you carry has depth. The words you speak have power. The love you offer has substance. And the faith you walk in has roots. The world may applaud instant growth, but God honors quiet obedience. And in the unseen, He forms leaders who can be trusted not just with influence, but with impact. This training ground will not feel glamorous. In fact, it may feel lonely. But what is formed in solitude cannot be shaken in public. You won't always understand what He's doing, but you will sense that something in you is changing. And that change is the evidence that His hand is on your life. It's not about speed, it's about strength. It's not about arrival, it's about becoming. When God prepares someone for a divine purpose, He doesn't begin with skill. He begins with surrender. He starts with the heart because everything flows from it. The assignments ahead of you will demand more than talent. They will require character, clarity, and resilience. And those can only be cultivated where no one is watching. The world may not see what God is doing in you now, but when the time comes, they won't be able to deny what has been built. So remain in the process. Resist the urge to graduate early. Don't despise the silence. Don't underestimate the lessons that come without applause. This is the sacred space of formation. This is where heaven crafts what cannot be taught in books or mastered in public stages. The invisible classroom is real, and if you stay present in it, it will produce a version of you the world has not yet seen, but desperately needs. This is what preparation truly is. It's not waiting for something to begin. It's becoming someone who can walk in it with wisdom, carry it with honor, and release it with love. And in this place of inner movement, where spirit speaks louder than noise, God is not just preparing you for what's next. He's preparing you for what's eternal. Not all relationships are meant to last, and not all connections are created equal. In today's world, bonds form quickly and break even faster. We swipe, scroll, and select, often without pausing to ask if the connection carries any depth. Convenience has replaced commitment. Appearances have overtaken authenticity. But those who walk with divine purpose understand this differently. For the chosen, relationships are not random. They are not for entertainment or emotional convenience. They are sacred intersections, moments designed not merely to satisfy the heart, but to align it with heaven's plan. There is a reason superficial ties never sit well with a soul that has been set apart. When your life carries spiritual weight, your connections must do the same. You cannot afford to link your spirit to someone who does not understand the language of purpose. It's not about being exclusive. It's about being intentional. There's a holy gravity to your path. And because of that, relationships must not pull you away from your calling, but pull you deeper into it. If they don't, then they are not alignment. They are interference. I've always believed that real connection only happens through agreement at the core, not at the surface. And Scripture confirms this. The prophet Amos once asked, "Can two walk together unless they are agreed?" That question holds more weight than many realize. Agreement doesn't mean similarity in hobbies or comfort in conversation. It means unity in direction, shared vision, and harmony in values. To walk together in the Spirit requires more than emotional chemistry. It demands spiritual congruence. If one person is headed toward purpose while the other is content with comfort, the journey will tear both of them apart. The chosen don't just attract attention, they attract assignment. That's why discernment becomes your closest companion. You learn to evaluate not just what someone says, but what their presence activates in you. Does this connection stir your calling or silence it? Do you feel more aligned or more distracted? Those are questions only the quiet space of the soul can answer. And when you've walked long enough with God alone, you start recognizing the kind of energy that strengthens what He's doing in you, and the kind that quietly dismantles it. In a culture that treats relationships like seasons, cycling through them as they shift with convenience, you must stand with conviction. Your relationships cannot be seasonal if your calling is eternal. You weren't designed to link with everyone. And that's not pride, it's precision. Because what you carry is rare, what surrounds you must be refined. The right people will not just be interested in your presence, they will be aligned with your purpose. And they will walk beside you not because it's easy, but because it's destined. So don't chase connection, discern it. Don't fear being selective. Embrace it. When you truly understand the weight of your assignment, you will stop apologizing for guarding your circle. This isn't about isolation. It's about preservation. You are not looking for the many. You are waiting for the few who can walk the narrow path with you, in agreement, in purpose, and in truth. That kind of connection isn't accidental, it's divine. Solitude is often mistaken for delay, as if being alone is merely the empty space between one relationship and the next. But that perspective misses something vital for the chosen. Solitude is not a waiting room. It is a mirror. It is the sacred pause designed to strip away illusions and reveal the deeper truths we've been too distracted to face. It is not about longing for someone to arrive. It is about learning who you are when no one else is there to define you. And until that lesson is learned, no relationship will ever truly satisfy you, because your expectations will still be rooted in absence, not awareness. In a culture obsessed with pairing up, being alone is often treated as a problem to be fixed. But for those called to deeper purpose, being alone is a space of calibration. It is where the soul is given the room to breathe, to observe, and to question without pressure. This is not the silence of lack. It is the silence of realignment. During this season, God doesn't just reveal who you are. He begins to expose what you've expected from love that was never meant to hold that weight. Romantic ideals built on fear of being alone begin to crumble, and in their place, a stronger foundation is formed, not on fantasy, but on truth. I've come to see that people often confuse desire with readiness. They want love, but they haven't yet understood what kind of love their soul is wired for. That clarity doesn't come in the presence of another person. It comes in the presence of God. It comes when you're no longer reaching outward for comfort, but inward for clarity. When you begin to ask not when will love come, but what kind of love is actually aligned with my purpose, then and only then do you begin to see through the fog of emotion and into the realm of discernment. This internal shift transforms the way you approach connection. You stop asking for someone to rescue you from the discomfort of waiting. You begin to value the discomfort for what it is, a refining fire, not to punish, but to prepare. That shift allows you to redefine what partnership means. It is no longer about completion. It is about multiplication. It's about walking with someone who doesn't just make you feel something, but who brings out what God placed in you. And that kind of alignment cannot be discovered in a rush or found in emotional noise. It is born out of stillness. It grows out of solitude. There is a sacred power in knowing your own heart before giving it to someone else. When you understand what your spirit needs, you can recognize when a connection doesn't carry it. You stop settling, not because you're hard to please, but because you've learned the value of peace. And peace doesn't scream. It doesn't perform. It confirms. When your internal world is no longer in chaos, you no longer mistake chaos for chemistry. The world teaches us to keep moving, to keep searching, to keep attaching until something feels good enough. But that pattern only delays what is real. For the chosen, the call is different. You are asked to sit with your discomfort long enough to learn what it's trying to teach you. And what it often reveals is this: you've been asking love to do what only God can do. You've been chasing connection as if it will fix the ache. But the ache is not a signal to pursue. It's a signal to pause, to examine, and to allow divine hands to reshape what love means to you entirely. When I said that we are not bodies with souls, but souls with bodies, I meant it. And that truth changes how we love, because when we lead from the soul, we cannot engage in relationships that only appeal to the senses. Our souls crave alignment, not attraction. We're not just looking for someone to walk beside us. We're looking for someone who sees beyond the surface and recognizes the assignment written on our lives. And until that depth is honored, being alone is not a weakness. It is a boundary set by God Himself. This sacred recalibration isn't about becoming emotionally numb or relationally distant. It's about becoming spiritually aware, so that when love finally comes, it doesn't meet a version of you still shaped by fear or fantasy. It meets someone whole, someone rooted, someone who knows what they carry and who they are becoming. That kind of love doesn't arrive by accident. It arrives by design. And solitude is where that design is revealed. If you're in a season that feels slow or empty, don't mislabel it. This is not the absence of movement. It is the presence of transformation. God is not keeping you from love. He's keeping love from becoming an idol. He is stripping away the noise so that you can finally hear what your spirit has been whispering beneath the surface. This is not about waiting for someone to love you. This is about learning how to love yourself through God's eyes, so that when love comes, you know it not by its promise but by its peace. That is the gift of being alone. It clarifies, it resets, and it elevates your expectations so that when love enters, it must rise to the standard of heaven, not the patterns of the world. And when that love comes, you won't wonder if it's real. Your spirit will already know, because it will not just meet your heart, it will recognize your purpose. And that is where love becomes more than emotion. It becomes alignment. It becomes mission. It becomes holy. Not every connection is sacred. Not every spark is a signal. In a world that celebrates chemistry and calls it compatibility, it's easy to mistake emotional highs for divine alignment. But the truth is, real connection, lasting soul-level connection, doesn't begin in the emotions. It begins in the spirit. It's not about who makes your heart race. It's about who brings your soul into stillness. And that kind of depth never shows up by chance. It is cultivated, not chased. It is discerned, not felt. It is the fruit of a life that has been refined from within, not one grasping for fulfillment from the outside. When your spirit has been through the fire, you no longer fall for what's flashy. You begin to recognize what's eternal. The soul doesn't need noise to recognize truth. It simply needs quiet. That's why surface-level attraction fades so quickly. It wasn't rooted in anything that could survive the test of time or purpose. But when two souls meet who have both been sharpened in the secret place, the connection is unmistakable. It doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with peace. It carries purpose, and that cannot be replicated by emotional momentum. The preparation for this kind of relationship happens in silence. It happens when you allow God to do the slow work of pruning your expectations, rewiring your desires, and replacing fantasy with clarity. The world teaches you to ask, do they excite me? The Spirit teaches you to ask, do they anchor me? One question leads to infatuation. The other leads to foundation. And unless you've done the inner work to know the difference, you'll continue repeating the same emotional cycles, mistaking intensity for intimacy. I've come to understand that soul connections don't follow trends. They don't show up on schedules. They don't care about how others define romance or compatibility. They are not validated by social media or admired for their appearances. They are quiet, steady, deep. They move below the surface and anchor themselves in places that aren't easy to access unless you've surrendered yourself to the preparation. God doesn't waste divine alignment on people who aren't ready to carry it. That's why the waiting is essential. It separates those who are emotionally available from those who are spiritually prepared. This is where the work happens, not in finding someone, but in becoming someone. Someone who no longer views connection as validation, but as a vessel. Someone who's no longer driven by the fear of being alone, but led by the wisdom of being aligned. The person who understands that when the soul is whole, it won't accept half-built partnerships. It won't compromise peace for proximity. It won't settle for attention when it was created for intention. That level of clarity doesn't appear in a moment. It is the result of days, weeks, months of inner refining. And while that process is rarely glamorous, it is always holy. You begin to learn that timing matters, that God is not slow. He is precise. And He's not just preparing someone for you. He's preparing you for someone. And when both are ready, truly ready, not just to receive love, but to sustain it under the weight of purpose, the connection will feel less like falling and more like arriving. When that connection comes, it will feel familiar, not because of shared backgrounds, but because of shared refinement. You'll recognize the look in their eyes, not because of beauty, but because you've both stared down your own brokenness and emerged whole. That's the difference between worldly romance and divine union. One entertains the surface, the other transforms the soul. And it's only when you've undergone your own transformation that you'll be able to see the real from the counterfeit without confusion. This kind of love isn't based on emotion. It's anchored in discernment. You'll no longer ask, "Do they complete me?" because you'll know you were already complete. The right connection doesn't fix your emptiness. It joins you in your fullness. It doesn't erase your process. It honors it. And because you know what it cost you to become whole, you won't risk giving your heart to someone who doesn't carry that same reverence. That's why waiting matters. That's why discernment matters. Because love is not supposed to be a performance. It's supposed to be a partnership. It's supposed to echo heaven, not echo culture. And anything less than that may look good for a season, but it won't last through your assignment. Because when your calling is heavy, your relationships must be rooted. And roots don't grow in shallow soil, so if you're still in the quiet, still walking alone, still wondering when that kind of connection will appear, know this: the silence is not delaying you, it is defining you. Every moment you choose inner growth over outward grasping is a moment heaven sees. Every time you say no to what looks good but doesn't feel aligned, your spirit matures. And when that moment comes, when the right connection enters, you won't hesitate, because your soul will recognize that it was not built on emotional noise, but on spiritual truth. The wait will be worth it. The preparation will make sense. And you'll realize that God wasn't just asking you to hold out for something rare. He was making you into someone rare, so that when love arrives, it doesn't just meet your expectations, it fulfills your purpose. There comes a point in every chosen life when the heart must surrender to a greater reality, that the mission always outweighs personal desire. This surrender is not bitterness. It is not a rejection of love, companionship, or emotional fulfillment. It is the awakening to a higher order, where what you feel becomes secondary to what you were sent to do. And while the world may never understand this kind of alignment, heaven honors it deeply. It is a decision few can make and even fewer can sustain. Yet, for the truly called, there is no other way forward. There is no clearer model of this truth than the life of Paul. He did not renounce love out of cynicism, but because his vision was too expansive to be divided, his life was too surrendered to be distracted. Paul understood that divine focus sometimes demands relational sacrifice. He knew that when the assignment is heavy, the vessel must remain unhindered. It wasn't that he couldn't love, it's that he couldn't afford to shift his gaze. The weight of his purpose required full attention, and he gave it without apology. That kind of devotion is rare, not because it is impossible, but because it is costly. The chosen ones are often pulled in the same direction. Not all will walk a path of romantic absence, but all must learn the same principle. Emotions must bow to mission. This doesn't mean feelings are wrong or invalid. It means they cannot be the compass. If every decision is filtered through how we feel, then we will never stay long enough in discomfort to bear fruit. But when the assignment becomes the anchor, even the strongest emotional tides cannot drift us off course. There's a sacred clarity that comes when purpose is placed above preference. You begin to see that what you forfeit emotionally is often what strengthens you spiritually. That loneliness, when embraced with vision, becomes power. That silence, when inhabited with trust, becomes clarity. You stop chasing the need to feel good and start living to do good. And in that shift, your life becomes dangerous to darkness, because it is no longer controlled by your feelings, but by your calling. I've watched many wrestle with this, thinking they've missed out if they haven't found a partner, a romance, a human mirror to reflect their worth. But the truth is, some of the most powerful voices in history never found that kind of connection. They found something deeper. They found alignment with heaven. And in doing so, they became mirrors of something far more eternal. Paul didn't miss out. He maximized his life for the kingdom. And through his example, we see that impact is not measured by who walks beside us, but by how well we follow the voice that leads us. This doesn't mean you are destined to walk alone. It simply means that if you are called, you must be willing to. The mission has to come first. If a relationship aligns with it, it will enhance it. If it distracts from it, it is not yours to carry. The maturity of the chosen is seen in this one truth: not everything that is available is assignment approved. Discernment teaches you to recognize what is divine and what is simply desirable. And when you learn that, your choices begin to reflect your future, not just your feelings. So, if you find yourself without a partner, don't rush to fill the space. Sit with it. Examine what's being built in that place. Because sometimes what feels like a void is actually God preparing you for undivided focus. And if the assignment on your life is weighty, the solitude is not punishment. It's protection. It is creating a capacity in you that emotional dependence would have weakened. It is developing resilience, depth, and inner sight. And these qualities are not only rare, they are necessary. I've said before that we are not bodies with souls. We are souls with bodies. And the soul's journey will not always align with the expectations of the body. The body longs for closeness, for touch, for companionship. But the soul longs for clarity, for obedience, for eternal resonance. When those two desires collide, only one can lead. And for the chosen, it must be the soul, not because the heart is unimportant, but because it was never meant to direct. It was meant to follow. To walk this way requires courage. It means standing when others pair off. It means choosing silence over comfort, mission over emotional reward. But in time, you will look back and see what heaven was doing. You will see the divine math behind the delay. You will see how being single-minded allowed you to build something that distraction would have destroyed. And you will know that you did not miss love. You made room for a greater one. Because, in the end, the true romance of the soul is not between people. It is between purpose and obedience. It is between the calling and the courage to carry it. If someone enters that space and adds to it, it is a blessing. But if not, you haven't lost. You have loved well by staying loyal to your mission. And that is a story the world may not celebrate, but heaven will never forget. Solitude is rarely comfortable, but it is always meaningful. For those chosen to carry divine influence, the path is often marked by quiet spaces, unseen sacrifices, and seasons of what feels like separation. But this isn't absence, it's architecture. Every lonely stretch is doing more than you can see. It's not about keeping you distant from others. It's about building a foundation strong enough to sustain the weight of what's coming. You are not being held back. You are being held still. So the groundwork beneath your feet can be set with eternal precision. Too often, people mistake loneliness for emptiness. But I've learned through my own journey that true fullness is never found in crowds or noise. It is forged in intimacy with God, in the places where no one is watching and no one is affirming. In that stillness, your roots go deep, and while others are building quickly on shallow soil, you are being developed in depth. God is not trying to help you survive your isolation. He's preparing you to shine through it, Because when the time comes for you to be seen, you won't just be visible, you'll be unshakable. The strength you are building in silence will one day become someone else's shelter. The peace you fought for in private will one day calm storms around others. That's what this preparation is about. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. It's about being so anchored in your identity with God that when He releases you into the fullness of your calling, your character can carry what your gifting attracts. And that kind of influence isn't formed in popularity. It's formed in hiddenness, in the refining fire of obedience without recognition. I've seen many treat spiritual growth like a checklist, a performance, something to be measured, but that's not how heaven works. Growth in the kingdom is not loud. It is faithful. It is about showing up even when nothing changes. It's about listening long after the answers stop coming. It's about trusting that the silence itself is sacred, that it is filled with instruction, revelation, and transformation. And if you can stay long enough in that space without trying to escape it, you'll find yourself becoming someone who no longer needs attention to feel full. You'll carry a peace that can't be shaken by human praise or criticism. This is why the process is so important. The journey through loneliness is not just about making it through. It's about what's being made in you. And what's being made in you is not small. It's not temporary. It's not for your comfort. It's for impact. You are being shaped to shift atmospheres, to lead with integrity, and to carry healing into places that have only known brokenness. But to do that, your spirit must first know what it is to be whole. And that wholeness comes not from applause, but from proximity to God. When you begin to see your lonely seasons as divine preparation instead of divine punishment, everything shifts. You stop asking, "When will this end?" and start asking, "What is this shaping in me?" You start paying attention to the small lessons, the subtle corrections, the quiet reassurances, the moments where God teaches you not through outcomes, but through whispers. And in those whispers, your confidence is built, not in yourself, but in the one who called you. I've said before that our identity is not rooted in what we do, but in who we are, and who we are is not defined by our audience, but by our Creator. We are souls first, and when the soul becomes healthy, the rest of life aligns. Relationships change, decisions become clearer, vision sharpens, and that only happens when the soul has been given space to breathe, outside the pressure of being seen. Solitude is not a step back. It's a sacred invitation to grow deeper, so you can rise higher. Every trial, every tear, every unanswered prayer during this journey is not a sign of delay. It is a signal of design. God is not wasting your silence. He's filling it, not with noise, but with wisdom, not with distraction, but with endurance, and not with temporary satisfaction, but with eternal substance. The fullness you are being prepared for cannot be rushed, because what you are being called to carry must last. Heaven is not interested in short-term success. It's after long-term faithfulness. So, if you are still walking through the wilderness of preparation, don't lose heart. Don't rush out of the place where God is refining you, because what is forming inside you now will one day flow through you and bless others. And when that day comes, you'll realize that nothing was wasted. Not a single moment, not a single prayer, not a single lonely night. Everything was building something eternal. This is the divine exchange. Your loneliness for His fullness, your waiting for His wisdom, your silence for His voice. And when He fills you, He doesn't just satisfy you, He overflows you, so that through your life, others might encounter the same presence that sustained you. That's not just survival, that's spiritual legacy. And that's what you're being shaped for even now. Silence is not rejection. Solitude is not punishment. When you are in a season where it feels like nothing is happening and no one is coming, that is not the absence of God. It is the movement of His hand. Hiddenness has always been His method for forming greatness. Before He sends you, He shapes you. Before He reveals what He's prepared for you, He prepares you to carry it. What you're walking through now is not a delay. It's design. Every quiet moment is full of intention. God is not ignoring you. He is investing in you. We often assume that preparation should look productive, but the kingdom works in reverse. God does His deepest work in unseen places. He doesn't start with performance. He starts with presence. He doesn't build your future by accelerating your timeline. He builds your future by anchoring your soul. And one of the most effective ways He does that is through solitude. It strips away the distractions. It silences the noise. It teaches you to recognize His voice without needing external affirmation. And in doing so, it makes you ready. Ready for what's real, what's lasting, and what's aligned with eternity. This is why the person He is preparing for you won't come a moment too soon or a moment too late. Divine alignment doesn't operate on emotion or expectation. It moves according to purpose. And when the timing is right, when your soul is settled, your spirit is strong, and your heart is no longer reaching out of lack, that's when the relationship will arrive. Not because you chased it, but because you became ready to receive it. Not because you needed it, but because you'd grown into it. You didn't wait for love. You were being formed for it. I've always believed that God doesn't just give us what we want. He gives us what we're prepared to sustain. That's why this moment matters. This season of refining, of self-discovery, of spiritual depth. It's not secondary to your story. It is the foundation of it. Right now, you are not just passing time. You are gaining strength. You are learning who you are when no one else is there to tell you. You are being taught how to stand, how to discern, and how to walk with God in every step. And that kind of formation creates a future you won't have to fear. So take the weight off your shoulders. Stop measuring your worth by the absence of a partner. God has not forgotten you. He is not withholding from you. He is protecting what's precious. He is making sure that when you do walk into that relationship, it doesn't break under the weight of your calling, that it doesn't interrupt your growth, but amplifies it, that it doesn't compete with your identity, but complements it. You're not missing out. You're being preserved for something too sacred to be rushed. I know the waiting feels long. I know the questions rise up when it's quiet, but every time you wonder why it hasn't happened yet, remember this: God sees further than you do. He sees what you'll need 5 years from now. He sees the assignment on your life 10 years from now. He sees the influence you'll carry and the strength your spirit will require. And so He builds slowly. He builds deeply. Because what He's building isn't just for your happiness, it's for His glory. Your season of preparation is not a detour. It is the direct path to what matters most. And while it may not be celebrated publicly, it is honored in heaven. This time alone is the proving ground of your faith, the sanctuary of your transformation, the space where your soul becomes whole. And when the right connection comes, it won't have to heal you. It will meet you already healed. It won't have to complete you. It will join you in your fullness. That kind of love cannot be found by accident. It must be matched to someone who has already been prepared. This is your invitation to stay the course, to stop fighting the process and start embracing it, to realize that every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every moment that felt like delay was actually God shaping you for what your heart doesn't even fully comprehend yet. And when that moment comes, when the right person appears and the timing aligns, you'll look back and understand. You'll see that every sacrifice was sacred. Every quiet day was a chapter in your becoming. Every "not yet" was heaven saying, "Wait, I'm not finished building you." So grow deeper, press in closer, learn more about who you are in Him. Strengthen your relationship with God now so that every future relationship flows from it. Because when you are anchored in His presence, you no longer grasp for temporary comfort. You wait for eternal purpose. You stop chasing connection and start living in confidence. And in that confidence, you attract what you're aligned for, no longer based on need, but on calling. He's not holding you back. He's holding you together. And when it's time, you won't question it, because the peace will be louder than the weight ever was. And you'll know, this was never about loneliness. It was about legacy. It was about being ready not just to love, but to love with purpose. That day is coming, but for now, God is still preparing you, and that is a holy thing. Now, let's enter a moment of prayer and stillness together. Heavenly Father, we come before you today in complete surrender, recognizing that everything you allow in our lives carries a purpose. Every delay, every silence, every season of solitude is not random. It is a divine classroom where you are shaping our hearts for more than we could ever imagine. In the places where we've misunderstood our isolation, open our eyes to see it for what it truly is, a sacred space where you whisper your plans. Lord, you see us in our quiet places when no one else does. You know the moments we ache for connection, the nights we question our worth, the days when hope feels distant. But you are not far. You are near, closer than breath, working in the background while we learn to wait with trust. We believe that the wilderness is not the end of our story. It is the soil where our strength is cultivated, where our identity is confirmed, and where our spirit learns to discern. Strip away what is false, Father. Remove the distractions, the unhealthy desires, the counterfeit voices that promise comfort but offer no peace. We ask that you sanctify this time in our lives, not by filling it with answers, but by filling it with your presence. Let every moment we spend alone become an altar where our thoughts are aligned with your truth. When the world tells us that we are behind, remind us that you do not operate on human timelines. Your timing is perfect. Your plans are not delayed. They are precise. Protect us from connections that are not ordained by you. Place a divine filter over our hearts so that we are not drawn to people who appeal to our wounds, but walk away from our worth. Teach us to wait, not with resentment, but with readiness. Let our discernment grow sharper each day. Help us recognize what is sent to distract and what is sent to develop. May we never be so desperate to be seen that we compromise what we carry. Remind us that what we have inside is valuable, and only those assigned by you are worthy to walk closely beside it. Lord, we also ask that you prepare the ones you have chosen for us. We pray for their healing, their growth, their clarity. Even now in the unseen, may you be working in their hearts, just as you are working in ours. Align our paths not by chance, but by covenant. Let our eventual meeting not be out of convenience, but out of calling. And when that moment comes, may we both be ready, not perfect, but prepared. Let our union reflect your goodness and serve your kingdom. In the meantime, show us how to grow deeper in you. Take us further into our calling. Remind us that this season of stillness is not a pause in the plan, but a necessary step in the preparation. Teach us how to love you more than we love outcomes. Teach us how to hear you louder than our emotions. Let this time be one of purification, one where the old falls away and the new is formed. May we emerge from it not bitter, but better, not wounded, but wiser, not empty, but overflowing. Father, we declare today that we are no longer afraid of being alone. We are no longer ashamed of our journey. We embrace the silence, we welcome the pruning. Because we trust the hands doing the shaping. You are the potter, we are the clay. And even when we don't see the final form, we know the process is good. You are making us vessels of purpose, carriers of light, and reflections of your truth. May our lives be a testimony of patience. May our decisions be rooted in trust. May our hearts be fully yielded to your rhythm, not the rhythm of culture. And when the world rushes us, may we remain grounded in the quiet confidence that what you have promised cannot be stolen, delayed, or replaced. It will come, and it will come with peace. We hold on to your word, knowing that when the right time comes, what is meant for us will not pass us by. Until then, we rest in your presence, we grow in your wisdom, and we choose faith over fear, preparation over pressure, purpose over popularity. Thank you for loving us enough to develop us. Thank you for using solitude to sharpen us. Thank you for preparing a love that mirrors our mission and strengthens our walk. We pray all this in the mighty, faithful, and perfectly timed name of Jesus. Amen. If this message spoke to your soul, then you're already part of something deeper. You're not just watching a video, you're stepping into a new understanding of who you are and who God is shaping you to become. If you've been navigating solitude, wondering when your moment will come, be encouraged. You are not lost, you are being led. You are not forgotten, you are being formed. And when it's time, everything that's been growing in the dark will bloom in the light. So don't walk this journey alone. Join our community of purpose-driven believers who are learning to wait well, live boldly, and love with clarity. Tap the like button if this word encouraged you. Hit subscribe so you never miss a message that speaks directly to your season. And in the comments, type 7honey7 if you're saying yes to divine timing and alignment. This space is more than content. It's a family, a place where faith, purpose, and transformation collide. Come grow with us. Come be sharpened with us. And watch how God takes your solitude and turns it into strength, your silence into wisdom, and your weight into something beautiful. This is only the beginning. Welcome home.